Some children grow from very small moments in the family kitchen. Growing up does not always begin with something big. Sometimes it begins with a meal, with the smell of Mother S cooking, with seeing that the dinner has many delicious dishes, but still needs a little green vegetable, and with one very innocent thought: if our family needs vegetables, I will find a way to bring some home. That day, Cutis was playing upstairs with the baby and Buem. The three siblings were all very happy together. The baby lay nearby, moving a little from time to time, watching the two brothers with curious eyes. Buem played beside them, while Cutis watched the baby and made little playful movements to make both younger ones laugh. In the small room, laughter sounded gentle and warm. Cutis looked at the baby, then at Buem, and felt happy inside. To him, sitting between the two little ones like that was a simple joy. He did not need special toys. He did not need to go anywhere far. As long as the younger ones were happy, the whole house felt warmer. Downstairs, Mother was busy preparing dinner for the family. Today, Mother was cooking many delicious dishes. The smell slowly drifted upstairs, so fragrant that Cutis had to stop playing. He lifted his head and breathed it in softly. That smell made his eyes brighten. It was the smell of a family meal. The smell of Mother cooking. The smell of an evening about to become complete. The smell of dishes that both Cutis and Buem loved. Cutis could not sit still anymore. He wanted to run downstairs and see what Mother was cooking. He wanted to help her. He wanted to stand near the kitchen and watch each dish being prepared. He looked at Mortfi Buem and the baby for a moment, then ran downstairs. When he reached the kitchen, Cutis saw Mother cooking many delicious dishes. Tonight's meal looked very generous. The food was prepared carefully, and each dish made Cutis excited. He stood nearby, looking around, feeling both happy and eager to help. Mother saw Cutis come down and asked him to watch the food for her for a little while. Cutis immediately became more serious. He stood near the kitchen and watched carefully. Even though he was still small, Cutis loved the feeling of being trusted by Mother. It was only watching the food, but to him, it felt like an important task. But as Cutis looked around the meal, he suddenly felt that something was missing. There were many delicious dishes. There was a wonderful smell. There was food Mother had cooked carefully. But somehow today there seemed to be no vegetables. Cutis stood still and placed his hand on his forehead to think. He did not know as Mo hat about meals as adults did, but he had seen that family meals often had vegetables. Vegetables made a meal greener, easier to eat, and more complete. And today, looking at the dishes Mother had prepared, Cutis felt that if there were some vegetables, dinner would be much more perfect. A plan began forming in his mind. Their home had no vegetables, but the neighbor might have some. If he wanted to ask for vegetables, he should not go empty-handed. Cutis thought he should bring something to give the neighbor first. That would be polite, and it would show gratitude. Cutis stood and watched Mother for a little longer. Mother was still busy cooking, not noticing that a small plan had begun in Cutis' mind. He quietly turned around and opened the refrigerator. There were apples inside. Cutis carefully took the apples out one by one and placed them into a plastic bag. He worked very seriously. Not to eat them, not to play with them, but to bring them to the neighbor. Because Cutis wanted to ask for some vegetables for the family dinner. Buem looked over Kepner from upstairs and saw Cutis taking fruit from the refrigerator. He ran downstairs, looked at the plastic bag in Cutis' hand, and seemed to ask what his brother was doing. Buem did not understand why Cutis was taking apples out of the fridge. Usually, if there were apples, Cutis might share them with him. But this time, Cutis carefully placed them into a bag, his face more serious than usual. Cutis looked at Buem and explained that he wanted to bring some fruit to the neighbor. Inside Cutis' heart, the plan was very clear. Bring apples over. Ask for some vegetables. Then Mother S' dinner would be more complete. Buem looked at his brother, both curious and surprised. To Buem, Cutis always had unexpected ideas. Sometimes they were a little mischievous, sometimes a little clumsy, but they usually came from Cutis wanting to help someone. Cutis picked up the bag of apples. He also took a flashlight. The sky was beginning to grow darker. The neighbor's house was not too far away, but it was no longer bright like daytime. Cutis held the flashlight in his hand, as if he had prepared carefully for this small trip. He did not want to bother Mother. Mother was cooking. If he told her, she might not allow him to go alone. But Cutis thought he would only go for a short moment, ask the neighbor for vegetables, and return quickly. In his childish mind, it seemed very simple. Cutis began walking outside. But just then, Dad came home from work. Dad saw Cutis hurrying outside with a bag of fruit and a flashlight. That immediately caught Dad's attention. A small child going out when it was getting dark, carrying a bag of things, was certainly not something ordinary. Dad called Cutis. Cutis heard Dad's voice and stopped. He turned around, a little startled. Perhaps Cutis worried that Dad would ask many questions or not let him go. But he did not want to hide it. Dad had already seen him, and Cutis knew he was doing this for the family dinner. Dad asked where Cutis was going in such a hurry. Cutis explained that he was bringing fruit to the neighbor. He wanted to exchange it for some vegetables so Mother could cook more for dinner, because tonight there were many delicious dishes, but it seemed like there were no vegetables. Hearing that, Dad stood still for a moment. Perhaps he was both surprised and touched. Such a small little monkey, yet he had looked at the dinner and thought the family needed more vegetables. He had known not to ask empty-handed, so he brought apples along. He had wanted to help Mother, even though she had not asked him to. But Dad also saw something more important. Going alone in the evening was dangerous. Dad gently reminded Cutis that he should not go out by himself when it was dark. Even familiar roads could be unsafe. If he wanted to visit the neighbor, he needed to tell Dad or Mother so an adult could go with him. Cutis lowered his head a little. He understood that he might have made Dad and Mother worry, but Dad did not scold him harshly. Dad saw his good intention. Then Dad held Cutis' hand. Dad said he would go with him to the neighbor's house. Hearing that, Cutis lifted his head, his eyes brighter. His plan was not stopped. It was just safer now, and more proper, because Dad was going with him. Cutis carried the bag of apples. Dad held Cutis' hand. The two of them walked together to the neighbor's house to exchange for some vegetables for dinner. The road to the neighbor's house was not far, but evening made everything feel different. Cutis walked beside Dad, one hand holding the bag of apples, the other held firmly by Dad. The flashlight shone down on the path, its small beam trembling slightly kept their heart each step. Cutis felt nervous as they walked. If he had gone alone, perhaps the road would have felt much darker. But with Dad beside him, that worry became much lighter. Dad did not scold Cutis anymore. He simply walked at him, as if teaching him that good intentions must go together with safety. Cutis understood that. He stayed closer to Dad, feeling happy that his plan could continue and warm, because Dad did not dismiss his idea. When they reached the neighbor's house, Dad helped Cutis give the fruit. Cutis stood beside him, a little shy but very serious. He wanted the neighbor to understand that he was not only coming to ask for vegetables, he had brought apples to give. That was his way of showing gratitude. The neighbor was happy to see Dad and Cutis. When Dad explained that Cutis wanted to ask for some vegetables for the family dinner, the neighbor smiled. Perhaps they also felt touched by Cutis' thoughtfulness. A child so small, yet already thinking about the family meal and bringing fruit to exchange for vegetables was very sweet. The neighbor agreed to give them vegetables. Dad began picking the vegetables. Cutis immediately held the flashlight for Dad. He stood hat great focus, shining the light where Dad was working. Sometimes the light moved slightly away, and Cutis quickly adjusted it. Sometimes the beam shook because his hand was small, but he tried to hold it steady. To Cutis, this was also an important part of the task. Dad picked the vegetables. Cutis shone the light. The neighbor gave them the greens. The apples had been given as a thank you. Everything was very simple, but Cutis felt happy inside. He felt that he was truly helping the family dinner. At home, Mother was still peeling eggs and preparing the meal. She did not know over kept that Cutis and Dad were at the neighbor's house, picking vegetables to bring home. She only knew that there was still work to do in the kitchen, and dinner was slowly coming together. Perhaps she thought Cutis was somewhere inside the house with Buem. After a while, Dad had picked many vegetables. The greens were gathered together, fresh and beautiful. Cutis looked at them, his eyes shining. Tonight's dinner would have vegetables now. Not just vegetables, but vegetables brought home because of his idea. Dad lifted Cutis into his arms. Father and child returned home together, carrying the vegetables. On the way back, Cutis leaned close to Dad, his heart full of pride. He did not need to say much. Just looking at the vegetables in Dad's hands, he knew his plan had succeeded. But he also understood something. Without Dad going kepite at him, the trip might not have been safe. Cutis learned that having a good intention is precious, but asking adults for help is the right thing to do. A good action done the right way makes the whole family happy and does not make anyone worry. He quietly told himself that next time, if he wanted to help the family, he would tell Dad or Mother first. Because helping is not only about acting quickly. Helping also means making sure everyone feels safe. Mother was inside the house when she saw Dad carrying Cutis back. In Dad's hands were many fresh vegetables. Mother looked at the two of them with surprise and asked why they had so many greens. Cutis looked at Mother, a little shy but also very happy. He said that he wanted to eat vegetables. It was a very simple sentence. But Mother understood that behind it was more than just wanting to eat. She looked at the vegetables, looked at Cutis, and then looked at Dad. Perhaps she guessed that Cutis had noticed the meal lacked vegetables and had thought of asking the neighbor for some. And knowing that Dad had gone kepite at him, Mother felt both relieved and touched. Cutis had not only thought of himself, he had thought of the family meal. Dad gave the vegetables to Mother so she could prepare a vegetable dish. Then Dad went to bathe after a day of work. Mother held the vegetables, feeling warmth in her heart. She had been busy cooking and might not have noticed what the meal still needed. But Cutis had noticed. He had even thought of a way to fill what was missing. While Mother prepared the vegetables, Cutis ran upstairs. He jumped around excitedly and played with Buem and the baby. Buem looked at Cutis, perhaps wondering why his brother was so happy. Cutis did not say much, but inside his heart was full of joy because his plan had succeeded. They had vegetables now. Dinner would be more complete. Mother would not have to worry about the missing vegetable dish anymore. A little while later, Dad finished bathing. Dad carried the baby, then came downstairs with Cutis and Buem to have dinner. The house began to smell of the new vegetable dish Mother had just made. The smell of food mixed with the voices of the family, making the evening feel very warm. Dinner today was generous.
I'd like to
All the
invite
dishes
Mom
Mother cooked were
and
delicious.
Dad to have
And
dinner.
now, on the tray, there were also fresh vegetables that Cutis had thought of bringing home. Cutis looked at the meal, his eyes shining with a small pride. He did not say it aloud, but he knew there was a part of his effort in this dinner. The whole family sat down to eat. Dad looked at Cutis and smiled. Mother also looked at him with gentle eyes. Buem sat beside them, happily enjoying dinner. The baby was cared for nearby
Thank you,
in the peaceful
Mom
family
and
atmosphere.
Dad.
Cutis ate the vegetables. Perhaps today, the vegetables tasted better than usual. Not because the vegetables were special, but because he knew they came from his small plan. From the bag of apples, from the flashlight, from Dad holding his hand, and from the neighbor's kindness. Cutis understood that sometimes a good meal is not only about the food. It is also about the story behind the food. Today's vegetable dish carried a story of care. It carried Cutis' thoughtfulness. It carried Dad's guidance. It carried the neighbor's help. And it carried Mother's hands, turning the vegetables into food for the family. The whole family ate and talked happily.